Hi all, today I'm showing you how to make my grandma's southern apple fritters. They're wonderful for breakfast. Ingredients you'll need: a teaspoon of cinnamon, 2 cups of powdered sugar, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, 1 cup of all-purpose flour, 1/4 cup of granulated sugar, 1/2 cup of whole milk, 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 egg, and 1 cup of chopped apples. First up, I'm going to heat the oil over a high flame. I'm putting about 2 inches deep of oil into a 6-quart Dutch oven. And I use a knife just to measure to see how deep it is. And next, I'm going to be measuring out 2 cups of powdered sugar into a measuring cup. And I'm going to be adding, I believe I added 3 tablespoons of milk. You can add, depending on how thin or thick you want it, it's 2 to 3 tablespoons of milk. You can do more if you want, if you like a very thin icing. And once I have everything incorporated, I set it to the side. And after this, I move on to the apples. I'm going to peel and core them. I'm trying to get enough apples for 1 cup of chopped apples. That's usually about 3 apples. And then, because I have the worst chopping skills, of course, I'm using the food processor, as I always do. I just cut them up after I've peeled and cored them into the food processor to chop. It just takes a moment. And it actually does a really great job because you want the pieces quite small. And again, I have the worst chopping skills known to man. That's how small. And then next I'm going to be making the actual batter, which is 1 cup of fork fluffed all-purpose. And again, I'm using white lily as I always do. Next I'm going to be adding the 1/4 cup of granulated sugar. It's not a very sweet batter. The sweetness really comes from the icing. And then after that, I add 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. I had to use the 1/2 teaspoon measuring spoon because I couldn't get the teaspoon in the jar. And now just 1 teaspoon of baking powder. And I'm going to mix it well. I'm using the mixer to stir everything together. And once that's done, I move on to doing the wet ingredients, which is just 1 egg and 1/3 of a cup of milk. And I beat it together in the measuring cup before I add it to the dry ingredients because I don't want to develop gluten. I want it to stay very tender, so I mix it separately before I put it in. And when I turn the mixer back on, I don't even think it's a full 10 seconds. It's very fast. Just till it's barely incorporated. And then I turn it off, and now I'm going to put in the apples. I measure out 1 cup of apples. And there is moisture in the apples, so that does add to the moisture content of the actual batter. And it's not a very thick batter, I think I mentioned that. And now I'm just folding in the apples. This is a very loose batter. It's not particularly thick. And that's what gives you such a light and fluffy fritter. But the temperature is really important. You have to heat the oil up at least to 340. And you're going to spoon in the batter into the oil and cook for 2 minutes on each side. But you have to make sure the oil stays above 320 or you're going to get a soggy, oily fritter, and you don't want that because it will become like a sponge. The temperature is super important. Be sure to flip them on the other side and cook for another 2 minutes. That's very important because you don't want raw dough in the middle. And again, You have to make sure the thermometer is not touching the bottom of the pan. I think I've mentioned this a few times before, because it will give you a false reading that the oil is hotter than it is. And if it's not the right temperature, again, you'll have a soggy fritter. And flip them over one more time. This made about, I think, a dozen small ones. But if you can always double the recipe if you like. And then bring them out. And I always drain them on a paper towel first before I start icing them. They're best served warm, of course, but I like to let them drain for just a minute so I don't burn my fingers on the hot oil. And I pour the icing into a shallow dish to ice the fritters. And you can do a double dip. My mama likes it that way. She loves sugar, so I always do a double dip for her. And I always lay the fritters on a wire rack to dry. That's another tip. And this is what they look like. They're absolutely delicious and perfect for breakfast or even in the afternoon with a cup of coffee as a snack. If you're enjoying our content, we're asking everybody to please like, subscribe, and comment. Because of how the YouTube algorithm works, this is necessary for us to grow. It doesn't cost you anything, but it helps us out tremendously just becoming a subscriber and watching our content all the way to the very end. It's just how the YouTube algorithm works. We'd like to grow, and we're asking everybody to please help us. Thank you. I post videos every Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays on a variety of topics: baking, cooking, gardening, interior design, pets, Southern lifestyle. And we have a lot coming up this holiday season with Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, but that we'd like to share. Coming soon, no churn Jamaican almond fudge ice cream, my mama's tuna casserole, a favorite of mine during childhood, my grandma's southern pot roast, southern barbecue shrimp. It's so delicious. I can't wait to share it. My grandma's apple pie, my grandma's pecan shortbread, one of my mama's favorite growing up, and my grandma's, it's actually my great-grandmother's, chicken noodle soup. It's so delicious, and a lot of holiday stuff we would like to share as well. We want to thank y'all for coming on by and watching our videos. We know you have a lot of choices, and so you becoming a subscriber or just coming by to watch, we're so grateful. We can't believe how many people have subscribed, so thank you. It's going to be very stormy coming up. Please be safe, and as always, be blessed.